Hello, my name is Alyssa Oates, and my presentation will be about open source software and its impacts. Open source software is something we use on a day-to-day basis when we log into our computers, with sites such as Google and Wikipedia and browsers like Firefox. I will be explaining what open source software is exactly and its beneficial harmful effects it has to us. I will also talk about how one may interact with it and its relationship to different data. On this page, I was to state the name of the innovation and provide a clear description of its intended purpose. Open source software is a free way for people all over the internet to collaborate and share information. As you can see on the page, I've provided examples of some open source software. We have Firefox, as previously stated, and even Sakai, a website that we here at URI use quite often. The source code of these sites are open to the public and are able to be modified and enhanced by anyone. That means programmers are able to improve these sites freely and help other users navigate through them easier. While searching for information, I happened to find an organization called Open Source Initiative that focuses on specifically explaining and protecting the open source label. On the next page, I explain the benefits and harmful effects of open source software. One of the main benefits is that people have more control over software and can look over its code. It also helps with students who want to learn more about computer programming, giving them a chance to try it themselves. Businesses who use it the most benefit from it quite a lot, saving about $60 billion a year. The picture below shows you just how companies go about using open source software. Unfortunately, since there aren't any rules or requirements as to how the coding should be, a developer may program something more towards how they want it, which may inconvenience the user. This leads the website to be less user-friendly. Because it is open source software, there can be people who utilize the free access to exploit a product and create viruses within the websites people use. The following question asks about the impact that open source software has had on society, economy, and/or culture. Open source software has opened up many opportunities for fellow computer programmers to create their own websites, since starting a web business costs very little. It's greatly improved businesses and companies around the globe who now use open source software. It allows sites like Wikipedia, the Mozilla Foundation, WordPress, Red Hat, and many others to grow and improve. For my survey I created, I was able to get information on how much open source software has helped the lives of my fellow peers. I then placed the data in Google spreadsheets and created a graph on the specific question clearly shown here. Overall, there have been some big improvements in both society and the economy. In the next question, it asked to indicate a field that open source software has impacted. In the field of education, there have been many great improvements when using open source software. It's been a big help inside and outside of the classroom. Open source software has provided schools with open educational resources, like presentation slides, podcasts, syllabi, images, lesson plans, lecture videos, maps, worksheets, and even entire textbooks. In my video below, I explain what open source has done for me, and then I show an example of open source software that someone is using in Google Documents.
To me, open source software has definitely been a big help in school specifically. I use the Google applications a lot, and there's examples of open source software, and they've definitely benefited me.
On this page, I describe how a user would interact with open source software. The video here shows you the basics of open source software and how someone would go about using it, with some interesting comparisons. Overall, this innovation gets used by millions of people around the web. For example, the user operating system Linux, shown here, is equipped with many uses. A user could install, update, remove software in Linux, and tweak its system to fit the user's needs. Downloading simple Chrome and Firefox extensions are also open source software interactions. Simply editing the HTML coding of a website is how one would also interact with open source. The following question states to describe in detail how open source software's technology incorporates at least one of the big ideas of abstraction, algorithms, programming, and/or the internet to accomplish its purpose. I chose programming as the idea that open source software incorporates the most in its technology. Programming enables problem solving, human expression, and creation of knowledge, which also make up what the open source software does. The word programming is a key part in what one does when interacting with open source software. Examples of some programs would be Google's applications, Linux, Firefox, OpenOffice, Sakai, and GIMP. This page explains open source software's relationship to data. For this question, it asks how open source software consumes data, produces it, and/or transforms data. I've said that open source software primarily transforms data. This being because a programmer would tweak a website which then transforms the data. Examples of data transformation would be some open source alternatives to something like Gmail. These would be webmail like Roundcube, Zimbra, SquirrelMail, Rainloop, and Kite, which all provide ways in which you can manipulate their data. Another way would be data visualization, which is the mechanism of taking tubular or spatial data and conveying it in a humanly friendly way and visual way. The graph shown here is one way this mechanism can make it seem more appealing. The following question says to describe at least one data storage concern, data privacy concern, or data security concern related to open source software. Being open to the public makes websites vulnerable to attacks from malicious users. Some may manipulate the data in the wrong way, which gives users a hard time when using websites. Others might even take advantage of the fact that it's open source and steal other users' identities and hack into accounts. Here on this page, I listed all of the references I used to find all of my information. I used reference number 5 the most, where it showed me what open source software is and all types of benefits and disadvantages. In order to create this page, I placed all the HTML coding in the cPanel that created my website. Note that this is also an example of open source software where I was able to do my own coding freely with no restrictions. As I scroll down, you can see the JavaScript I used in order to place the current date in my front page. I also used the style tag, which placed everything in its correct area. The design of my website was created by using CSS shown on this page. In this coding, I provided tags for certain text on pages to have background and text colors, and applied them to every page. This is also where I created the border of my entire website and its color. The buttons at the bottom of each page were also made in the coding as shown here, where I provided the padding, background color, and other attributes. In order to make the logo, banner, and animation, I had to use multiple tools, like Pixlr, where I was able to crop the images and convert them when needed. In Pixlr, I also provided layers to both my logo and banner in order to customize them the way I wanted, and have them look original and well organized. For the animation, I also used a website called EasyGIF, which allowed me to upload images and animate them. From there, I uploaded the images in GIF to my cPanel along with all the other images used in my website.